What's up, guys? It's Kyra and welcome back to my channel. First off, let me start off by saying, y'all, I have not filmed in like 2 or 3 weeks, and it honestly feels so weird to like be in front of a camera because it's just been a minute, like a little minute. But I am back and I want to go ahead and kick off my makeup for beginners, makeup basics series of videos. I had mentioned in a recent Get Ready With Me that I kind of wanted to get back more to like the teaching side of makeup, the more educational side for women out there who are just getting into makeup. Because surprisingly, there are a lot of you guys out there who are just getting started, which is awesome. But because you guys are kind of just getting started, I wanted to take it back all the way to the very beginning and just share just basics and fundamentals of makeup. My definition, my version of it, just honestly like how I would interpret it to someone who was sitting right in front of me. That's how I wanted to explain it to you guys. Again, this is just my opinions, the way I would do things, my tips and tricks. So it may not be, for everyone, but I feel like it would be really, really, really helpful to just start from the very beginning and just tackle even the most simple things, simple topics, simple steps, and just really dive deep into those, because not everyone understands how do you pick your foundation shade, how do you get your concealer from creasing, how to highlight and contour, difference between cream contour and powder contour, and how to apply a liquid illuminator or where to apply your highlight so you don't look like a clown, just like basic simple stuff. How do you wear red lip liner for women of color, like just simple things like that I really, really, really want to dive deep into. As you all can tell by the title of the video, today is kind of like the very start of the series, which is foundation. I feel like foundation is typically where most women tend to start whenever it comes to their makeup routine. I found that people typically will do like they start off with foundation, and then after foundation they tend to step it up and then add concealer, and then once they have concealer down, then it's powder, and so on and so forth. So for me, it's like I find that the everyday woman tends to just build upon each step, and so that's how I want to tackle this series. So I want to start with just the basics, which is just foundation, matching your skin complexion, how to find the right shade for you, how to determine your skin type, so on and so forth. And then the next one will be, the next step on top of that. So if you're sitting there and I'm saying things that may sound, very, very remedial or very basic, well, then that means this video may not be for you, but it will definitely be jam-packed with lots of different tips. So I had actually kind of really thought about how I wanted to break this video down, and I came up with 5 basic steps to achieve, like the perfect complexion shade and how to really apply it perfectly as well. So those 5 steps, which of course I will go ahead and dive deeper throughout the video, but those 5 steps are to 1, determine your undertone, 2, determine your skin type, 3, of course, select the foundation, 4, to test the foundations, and then 5 is to customize it if needed. So starting with step 1. So the first step, of course, is to determine your undertone. Now, I have been told many different ways, even here on YouTube, there are tons of different ways people say to find your undertone. And it's honestly a very personal and unique thing to me, in my opinion. I feel like there's not like a one rule answers, that general question. Like, it's very, very unique and personal because everyone's skin tone is literally completely different. There are people who are true warm undertones, people who are true cool undertones. And I, as a makeup artist, have seen people that have a variety of undertones within their face. So it's very, very important to just figure out basically the primary undertone that you're working with. So when it comes to undertones, they're like the 2 main ones. Okay, you have cool and you have warm. Okay, so most experts say that if you look at your wrist, okay, and you look at your veins, and your veins are more purple or more blue, then that means that you are typically cool undertoned, okay? I would show you guys, but I am a warm undertone girl, so my veins are actually green, okay? So again, if your veins on your wrist are more blue or purple, then you are typically more cool undertoned, okay? But if you have more of a green vein, which you can't really even see it here, but like I have one vein literally going right here across my wrist, and it's green. Like there's no in between, like it's literally just green. So if you have more greener veins, then you're typically more on the warm scale, okay? Also, experts say that if you tend to look better in silver jewelry, then you're more cool toned. If you tend to look better in gold jewelry, then you're more warm toned. I almost never wear silver jewelry because I feel like I don't look good in it, which again attests to the fact that I am a more warmer undertone. Those are the two primary categories that you will find most places tend to, cater towards. Think of MAC. MAC has NC and NW. NC 50 is for the cool shade. So anything that has C in it, of course, is for cool tones. And then W is for the warm tones. Now, I think that, in my opinion, like their shade and naming tends to be a little bit off because, for example, I am actually a NC 46 in MAC, even though I am a warm undertone. So I just wouldn't really focus too much on the naming of it, because sometimes, like, if there is a brand that is strictly like a cool or a warm toned range, I would just still test and play with, even if it, even if you see a shade that may be in the cool family, I would still play with it because they aren't always just strictly cool and warm. So those are the main two categories. You have your cool and you have your warm. So under those two primary categories, I have found that more and more recently brands have been focusing more so on actually narrowing it down. Okay, so instead of just saying you have cool and warm, they're now saying that they have pink undertones or golden caramel undertones or olive undertones or neutral undertones. Those tend to be the more common ones these days. Like those four tend to be more common. Pink, neutral, olive, and golden caramel. So for me, whenever I'm selecting foundations, I actually tend to gravitate more towards brands that have that sort of breakdown. It's really hard for me to find like a perfect shade whenever it's just strictly cool or warm. I know that I am very golden and caramel toned, which I'll show you guys in a second how you kind of determine your undertone. But because I know my undertone, I typically will just gravitate towards brands that have a breakdown that has golden or caramel toned foundation. So now, how do you determine your undertone? Okay, so we've already laid out how you can figure out if you are cool toned or warm toned. Okay, so I know, again, based off my veins and based off of that I look good in gold jewelry, I know that I am definitely more on the warm side. Okay, now if I look at my chest, okay, I'm not the best example because I feel like I'm literally just like golden. Like that's literally all you see. But for the most part, my chest area is very, very, very golden or yellow. So, people tend to, of course, group together yellow, gold, and a caramel in the same family. It tends to be used interchangeably, your yellow or your golden or, your caramel. So I kind of fit just all of that. I'm not really yellow per se. I'm definitely more golden and caramel. But if there is a range of foundations that just strictly has like yellow or red undertones or pink undertones, then I'll just go for the yellow one. But if the brand does have a caramel undertoned or a golden undertoned foundation, then I'll always reach for that as opposed to yellow. So again, look at your chest and just figure out what tone is coming through. Now, I have found as a makeup artist, just from my personal experience, I have found that, of course, Black women tend to be, of course, more so on the warm scale. And we tend to be either more red undertoned or more yellow golden, the majority. I have seen like random examples where like I've seen like some random cool toned black women, but it's not very common. So for the most part, I have found that we tend to be very golden or yellow caramel or more red toned. And again, just look at your chest and see what color is peeping through your skin. Okay. I have also found that Latino women, who I have actually done makeup on, tend to be either more yellow or more olive. I have found that Hispanic and Latino skin tends to be a little bit more olive or just more neutral. Okay. Oh, and then also same thing with black women. We can also be neutral, so I'll explain neutral in a second. I have found, of course, that white women or women who have really fair skin tones tend to be, it depends on if they tan or not, or if they are just naturally tanned, then they can either be like more yellow if they have a good tan, or if their just skin is just naturally tanned, or more on the pink undertone side. So pink, of course, is, you know, your skin literally is pink. Like whenever you get mad, if you get red, then you're typically more on the pink scale. So that's kind of just like the main three that I've worked on and that I have noticed. Again, that's my experience and my breakdown. You could be completely different. That just don't, if you are, just ignore what I just said. But that's a good way to gauge, you know, what your skin undertone is. Again, you kind of determine if you're really warm or really cool. And then you can even take it a step further and determine if you have an olive skin tone or a golden yellow caramel skin tone or a pink undertone. It's just a matter of just figuring out what, you know, your undertone is. So once you have figured out what your undertone is, okay, so we know here that's caramel, that's very golden, very, you know, on the warm side. Also, I want to note that because even though I am technically in the warm family, because it's, you know, like if you kind of categorize it warm versus cool, I'm definitely warm. However, I don't like really gravitating towards foundations that are classified as warm undertoned, because I have found that most just strictly warm shades tend to be more orange or more red. Warm tones tend to pull a lot of those orange and red tones. And I'm obviously not orange or red. So again, that's why I personally tend to gravitate towards brands that have more of a decisive breakdown that shows or explains, okay, this shade is more golden or more caramel or more yellow. This shade is more pink. This shade is more neutral, more olive. You see what I'm saying? That's just my personal preference. So that's just my personal preference, okay? So we have our shade picked. Now it's time to go ahead and figure out your skin type, which typically kind of just ranges between really oily, combination, and dry. It's pretty self-explanatory. I mean, you know, if your skin tends to get really dry, starts to really flake up, you know, if it just really needs a lot of moisture, then of course your skin is dry. If you are super oily, like your whole entire face just gets oily all the time, to where like after like an hour of washing your face, you're a grease ball again, then you're super oily. Then there are people like me who I actually find that most people, especially women of color, tend to be combination. It's funny because I used to think that I was just straight up oily, but I'm not. I'm just combination skin. So my perimeter of my face is normal. Oh, of course, I'm sorry, I forgot to say normal too. Sorry. So there's dry, combination, oily, and normal, okay? So the perimeter of my face is normal. Like I don't really get oily here, there, nowhere down there, my chin, none of that. That's normal. I only get oily here, and like my lower cheek area. That's it. So because I'm not oily all over, then I'm considered combination, okay? Then, of course, there's normal, and normal people are, to me, they're like so lucky because normal skin is just normal. Like, it's not dry, it's not oily, it's just fine, you know? Like, you can apply some moisturizer in the morning and, like, you're good all day. You won't get oily, you won't, you know, get super dry. Like, you won't need to keep on applying moisturizer. You don't really have to use mattifying primer. You're just normal. And so that's, you know, of course, another skin type. So you've determined your undertone, okay? So I know that I am a golden caramel yellow undertone, okay? Then I also know that I am combination skin, okay? So I get oily here and there, okay? So now that we know that, it's time for us to go out and select our foundation. And this is where it can get a bit tricky, because not only do you have to worry about the undertone and the shade match, but you also have to worry about the actual type and consistency and formula of the foundation. So because I am combination, I tend to either reach for mattifying foundations or like demi-matte foundations, okay? I don't really do well with like luminous or dewy foundations, because luminous and dewy foundations tend to work better on dry skin, okay? I mean, think about the term dewy. Dewy is a formula that has some moisture in it. You know, it's really glowy, really light, you know, really lightweight. It may or may not have oil in it. It's just a very more shiny consistency and formula. You know, dewy and luminous. Now, if you are dry, then a dewy or luminous foundation would be perfect for you, because it does have that extra moisture in it to keep your skin hydrated throughout the day, okay? If you're oily, of course, you want to just reach for just, if you prefer to keep your makeup looking matte throughout the day, then you definitely want to reach for a matte foundation, okay? That's pretty simple. Like if you're oily, you want to do matte. Unless you want to just go for a dewier look for that day, then of course go ahead and change it up. But for the most part, if you want to look intact throughout the day, you want to reach for a, you know, more mattifying foundation. If you're normal, you can do either one. Again, you're normal, so your skin doesn't really lean one way or the other. So if I'm in store, there's like two main ways that I'll go in and like search for foundation. If you go into like an Ulta, like you're looking for a drugstore foundation, we all know that most drugstore foundations don't really have a tester. If that's the case, like even like a Target, a Walmart, whatever. So the best way to do it, which kind of sucks, but it's just to use like your hand to kind of gauge, you know, which shade looks pretty close to you. So I'll just like hold my hand up in front of like the shade pictures and kind of just gauge which one looks to be as close to my hand shade as I can get. You guys know I don't like mixing foundation, so I try to just find or stick to brands that I have to just only buy one shade. If it's a drugstore brand, I'm more flexible, but I typically just like to have a brand that has as close to my shade as I can get. The good thing about most drugstore places, especially Target and Walmart and even Ulta, is that if you go home, you try it and it doesn't work out, you can return it. So I'll just go ahead and just like get like one or two shades, and if it doesn't work, I'll just go back to the store and exchange it. And that's how I'll do it if I'm, you know, working with a shade that does not have a tester. If I'm like in Sephora or Ulta on the prestige side, most of those brands do have testers. And what I like to look for is, first of all, again, I gravitate towards the brands that like on the display bar that it has a breakdown of the undertones. And so again, I know as a golden caramel yellow toned girl that I am looking for a shade that has that undertone. So I prefer to reach for brands that actually have on the display and make it much easier for the customer to figure out and select their shade based on their undertone. So I prefer that. If it's a brand that does not have like the actual breakdown on the display case, then of course it's a matter of just testing and swatching on your hand. I prefer to swatch actually on my lower cheek area, and I actually bring it down on my neck a little bit just to make sure that the foundation on the face blends in flawlessly into the neck. I've been doing this for years and I still mess up. So if you mess up, you guys just like, don't worry about it. Just keep it moving. You can fix it, adjust it, whatever. But the best way to do it is to apply a little bit here and drag it down. And you want to pick the foundation that blends in the most with your neck. Okay, because you can apply one shade all over that matches the perimeter, and then it's like a clear line of demarcation between your face and neck. So the neck is honestly the most important part. So again, apply it, drag it down to figure out which shade looks the best with your neck. That's step 3. You go in the store and you select the foundations. So step 4, of course, is to actually test the foundations in. I have a few foundations here to kind of show you guys what I mean by like warm or red undertone, you know, more olive, more neutral, more golden, you know, too light, too dark, etc. Hopefully it won't take too long, but I want to really show you guys what I mean by those different undertones and different, you know, formulas. Okay, so here I have the CoverGirl Full Spectrum foundations. Okay, here's a few. And one reason why I love these, and I said it before whenever I did my review on these, is because I love that in the names of the foundations, they included the undertone type. I love brands that do this. Okay, so for example, this one here is Tan Golden 1. Okay, this one here is Deep Neutral 1. Okay, this one here is Deep Golden 1. Okay, and then this one here is Deep Cool 3. So just for an example, okay, here is Tan Golden. So again, some brands use the term yellow, some use the term golden, some use caramel, kind of like all the same, not really all the same thing, but it's the same general family. So actually, I'm going to do Deep Golden 1. Okay, this goes to my skin tone. So here is Deep Golden 1, okay? So if I apply this right there. Okay, so you see how the complexion, okay, so you see how the foundation tends to pick up more yellow or more golden. There's no red in it. There's no orange in it. There's no, you know, olive in it. There's no pink in it. It's literally just, you know, golden. Now, had I applied this foundation just right here, not on my neck, right? It looks like it's a pretty close match just on my face. Down here on the lower portion of my face, it looks pretty close, okay? But once I drag it down here, you see how it's obviously a lot darker than my neck, which means that if I were to apply this all over, it would be a clear distinction between my face and my neck. Okay? So that's Deep Golden 1. Now, here is Deep Neutral 1. And I kind of find that neutral tone foundations tend to be, they kind of tend to vary by brand, but neutral is more of a shade that's for people who are like right in the middle. Like if you're not very yellow or very golden, but you're not, you know, very cool, you know, you're not really red or really orange, not really olive, but you're kind of like just normal kind of, then neutral is like what you want to reach for. So here's Deep Neutral 1. Okay. So here's Deep Neutral 1. Okay. So the way I kind of describe it is, to me, neutral is more so like the absence of those distinctive undertones. So neutral tends to be like none of the above. You see how this one here again is not yellow, which is obviously this one here. This one's very golden. It's not yellow. It's not red. It's not orange. It's not olive. It's not pink. But it's, of course, a pigment, right? So to me, neutral is like the absence of the color. You see what I'm saying? Or the undertone. So that's neutral, okay? And then I have this cool one here. It is, of course, obviously like way too dark, but I also want to showcase it just for you guys to get an idea of what I mean when I say cool. So cool foundations tend to lean more to the gray scale. I don't want to say gray, but it tends to be more in that family. So if I take Deep Cool, which again is obviously too dark, and I put it like right here. Okay, so you see how the shade Deep Cool is very different from the other two shades. Now, even though they are different shades, the undertones of them are very different. So it actually comes off, I mean, because there are people who actually are the skin tone, but if you're not in the cool family and you apply it all over, it will apply and it will look muddy. It'll look gray, washed out. It just looks gray. So like, again, this one is not warm. Like, there's no red tones in there. There's no orange tones in there. There's no anything in there to make it fit someone that would have some yellow or golden undertones. It's really, really more so on that cool gray scale. So here I have MAC NW60. So this is a warm tone foundation, and you will clearly see the difference when I apply this versus this warm tone, okay? Okay, so I brought you guys in because I really, really, really want you guys to get an idea of what I was saying. Okay, so again, just to recap, here is deep golden, this one here in the middle, okay? Then you have, what was this? Deep neutral. Then you have deep neutral, which again is not really in either one of those families. It's not cool, it's not warm, it's not orange, it's not yellow, it's not pink, it's just there, okay? Then you have deep cool. Now, as you all can see even closer, you see how cool this is? You see how it's kind of pulling out some of that gray undertone? That's what cool is. Here is the NW60. So you see how NW60 is a lot warmer? It actually is pulling out some of those red and orange tones as opposed to the deep cool from CoverGirl. So again, it's a really, really good comparison of what a warm tone foundation is versus a cool tone foundation. So now I want to go ahead and add one more foundation, and it's the shade Tan Golden 2 in the Maybelline Matte Ambition foundation. And I want to apply it because this is actually the shade that I wear. This is my actual shade, and I want to show you guys why I would pick this one versus the deep golden, okay? So again, here is Tan Golden 2. Okay, so obviously this one down here and these two up there are obviously not my shade. Now, deep golden could have been a close match. However, once I apply Tan Golden 2, you should be able to figure out why I think that this is definitely more my shade. Okay. Now, obviously, when I apply it just on my lower cheek area here, it looks too light, doesn't it? It looks like it's a little bit too light. However, this is where the blending into the neck trick makes a huge difference. Because, as you all can see, this one blends into my neck much, much, much better. Like, just blending it out. Look at this. See? It has completely disappeared. Completely disappeared. Like, you can't even tell where the foundation is. So you see how this blends in flawlessly with my neck versus deep golden one. You guys see that? You see the difference? So that's why applying it on the lower cheek area and then blending it down makes a huge difference, because again, the important part in the application is the neck. Like, I can apply a full face of foundation and may not match my face spot on, but you can always fix that and adjust it with cream contour, some bronzer, you know, some highlight contour. Trust me, it will be fixed. But the important part is the neck, because you can't fix the neck. Now, you can always go ahead and try to drag the foundation down, you know, whatever. But if your face is completely off from your neck, then you would have to apply foundation down your neck, on your chest, everywhere else, just to get everything to blend together. You see what I'm saying? Also, just a reminder, as I said earlier, that the lower cheek area always tends to be a lot darker than the rest of your face, at least for me. And also, honestly, for most clients, that tends to be the case. People tend to be lighter here in the center and then darker on the perimeter. So I will just always stick to just applying the foundation that matches like the neck area and like the center of the face, and just forget about how it looks on the outside, because it will look a bit ashy and a bit crazy whenever you apply it all over. But again, once you contour, bronze, do all of that, it will make a lot of sense, okay? All right, y'all, so I actually went ahead and jumped ahead and applied the foundation. And I did that because I wanted to focus this video on just the fundamental basics of picking out the foundation. Like the very bare basics, you know, undertone, skin types, things like that, testing, things like that. But the next video is going to be all about how to really apply it and how to customize it, because those are also two very, very, very important things, because I do have some tips and tricks as far as how I get my foundation to look really nice and flawless and just get it to look even but still natural, and of course achieve a nice flawless finish. So stay tuned for the next video to hear about how I apply foundation, my favorite brushes, how to customize it, and so on and so forth. Again, it's really, really, really important to kind of just, you know, focus on the basics, and then, as we said, focus on the basics and then build up as we go. Hope you guys enjoyed this first video of my makeup for beginners or beginner basic series. I am so excited about this series because I actually loved doing this video, and I cannot wait to do so many more for you guys. So just stay tuned. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys did, give it a thumbs up, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.